What is up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Austin Jardine, and this is the Vanguard Project podcast. Happy freaking Monday. I hope you all had a wonderful weekend. I thoroughly enjoyed myself. I got got out on Saturday, and I rode up to McCall from kind of the Boise area, which is about a 2.5 hour drive. And I got out on my bike, got some sun, and did my first semi-long trip on my motorcycle. And I tell you what, I'm addicted. Something about being on a bike is very freeing, and kind of seeing it and experiencing kind of the highway in a little bit different way is a lot of fun. So I hope you all got out, did something exciting, kind of filled your cup with whatever it is the case may be, and as we go into the 4th of July weekend, I hope you all make some good plans, make some good choices, have a wonderful time with fireworks, because you know what, everybody's a bit of a pyro, and get after it. But before we get into today's episode, if you don't mind, hit that subscribe button. Follow me on the Instagrams, the Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you're getting your podcasts these days. I would love for you to join the family and leave a little rating as well. Makes me feel good and does help grow the show from what I believe I understand of the ratings and reviews. So please leave a comment, whatever the case may be. Follow me. Use the Instagrams to see what I'm up to beyond the microphone, because as we get into it, you'll learn pretty quick that I don't do a whole heck of a lot as far as talking about myself. My goal with this podcast is to sit down with others to really share their life story and their life experience. My little mantra here is growth through story and strength through community. So what I mean by that, what my goal and aspiration is to really have a little bit more of a deeper conversation, I guess you could say, a little bit more than just skin deep, as far as understanding how people got to where they're at, the decisions that they've made, some of the things that they've learned, and hopefully translating that or communicating that to you in a way that gets you excited about something, thinking about something a little bit differently, or in some instances, finding a new hobby or community to go join in on. So that's my passion, my purpose, right, with this podcast. So I hope that you take some good information away from this. But with all of that being said, I'm really excited for this episode with Mr. Kris. I reached out a couple of weeks ago, got connected, got this all scheduled up. We recorded on a Friday afternoon, and you know what? I'm hoping at some point to lock down a part 2, because Kris had a lot of really, really good things to say, a lot of life experience and things that I feel like I could continue learning from him with. So I'm hoping to lock something down in the future. But before we jump into it yet again, today's episode is brought to you by Eberlestock. And, you know, I have been very thankful to these guys at Eberlestock. They actually just came out with their new lineup of clothes for this next hunting season. I went and I picked up one of their quarter zip shirts that I really haven't dorked around with yet. But I did, however, wear my Owyhee Field shirt while I was riding up to McCall this weekend. And for those of you that aren't familiar, they actually have, it's very similar to their Bruno hoodies, where it's a 4-way stretch. It's very light, meant for, honestly, you can use it for the office, which I do, and then also your high activity exercises, because it's going to help wick away a lot of that sweat and give you a whole range of mobility while looking a little bit nice. So it was really nice because I actually wore it up to keep a lot of the sun off my skin, provide just a little bit of warmth. But I did appreciate it because it's they're the snap front buttons. So as I was riding, you know, I'd get hot, I'd pull off, fill up with gas, right, unbutton it real quick without having to take my helmet off or dork with anything, snap it back on when I'm ready to go, whatever the case may be. So be sure to take a look at those. I know that we're not quite in the hunting season anymore, but you know what? It is never too early to start, let alone get gear that is you can translate from the field to the office, like the Owyhee Field shirt. So be sure to give Tucker at the retail store a call. Let them know the Vanguard podcast sent you. Get hooked up and ready to go. But otherwise, we're going to roll a wicked awesome episode, and I will catch you next time. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the Vanguard Project. My name is Austin Jardine, and I am excited for today's episode. I reached out to Mr. Kris Paronto. I reached out to one of your dudes,
Jeremy. I shouldn't say dude. Jeremy is Jerry Mitchell. He's a former Army. He's an Army veteran, Iraq War vet. coming across, I know I cut you off here, but I don't want
No,
you
you're
to,
good.
like, I've got this, because you do have those groups or those public figures or those influencers that have like like the entourage, like have that entourage, and they do, man. So a lot of them don't think BRCC doesn't have an entourage. They do. As much as Evan and Matt say, no, you do, guys, and I love you anyway. I know those guys before they even were doing all that, but yeah, I've gone through a lot of people that have tried to help me, and there's very few I could trust, and that's why I'm pointing this out. Is Jeremy is one of the only people that I can trust in this business. There are a lot of guys I can trust on the battlefield. There really are, which is kind of sad to say. I can trust them on the battlefield, but I can't trust them in the business world. And I've had to learn that the hard way. But Jeremy is one of those dudes, and he's a dude.
Yeah.
He's a dude. He's the smartest, dumbest Southern boy I ever met. Yeah, if you talk to him, like, man, can't spell for shit, but he's brilliant. I mean, he's extremely intelligent. And he's a tremendous business person. Surprisingly, you would never think of it. But he's also trustworthy. So he's the one that reached out to me, when you reached out, and he's the one that monitors and catches all this stuff, because he knows when something's not really in our wheelhouse,
Sure.
or when something is in our wheelhouse. And the thing about Jeremy that's so awesome is it doesn't have to be veteran oriented. It doesn't have to be like we were talking about. It doesn't have to be a former spec ops guy that's doing the interview. He just does this something that we want Kris to be a part of because it may help somebody down the line, whether they're veteran. And so him and I have developed a very good rapport. And of course, he's become a very, very good friend, but more than anything else, I can trust him.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of people you can really trust once you get out of the military into, especially into not just the normal business world, but when you get to this public figure, movie, Hollywood, books, man, it's and especially the gun community in itself, we eat our own, man. We really do. And we need to stop that, but we do really eat our own. And Jeremy's one of those guys that I've over time just figured, he came and helped me when we weren't doing very well because of a past experience with someone else that really screwed us over for a lot of money. And that's just how it is. I mean, that's business. You learn the hard way. But he came in and said, hey, man, you're not paying me a dime. I love what you do. I know what I'm doing. Let me take this over for you, and I'm going to get you back to where you were before. And I'm like, dude, I don't even know you, but I got nothing to lose since it's all been taken anyway. So why not?
It's like almost a chance, but not quite.
Yeah, it's like I was like, you dude, I can't pay anything. I really don't have anything to pay you, but it worked out, and he's made this grow. He's actually made Kate, not just Kris Paronto, but he really made Tonto a brand more than anything, and has made it grow into what it is now with like Battle Line Tactical, which is, we have a great training company. The vodka, never thought I'd ever have that. To me, whether it does well or not, it's doing fairly well. But it's just even cool to have a vodka named after you, and it's very good. It's really good. And then also I have my own podcast called Battle Line Podcast with Ian Scotto, who used to run Soft Rep Radio, and Andrew Wilkow show used to be in. So the bottom line is, and I hope this helps people out there, even us guys that may look like everything's going well, and you should be at the top of your game. Like me, movie came out, books came out, things were well, exciting, on TV all the time. Honestly, that was probably the worst time of my life right there. It was awful. And there were just bloodsuckers everywhere. And I didn't know what I was getting into. And it's not their fault. It's my fault. I made the bad decisions, and I luckily persevered through it. And then, all of a sudden this guardian angel came out of nowhere. So I was saying, guys, be patient. And it was 3-4 years I had went through that to experience that before somebody came in. You know what? I'll help you out here. And you don't need to pay me a dime. I'm going to help you out. And there are those people out there that you can still trust. And they're not looking at it for anything else than just help you out. And obviously he's grown with us. So he's helped with the growth and experienced and benefited from the growth. But, I think people lose faith in today's age, that they don't think those type of people are out there. And they're out there. You just have to be able to hear it and listen. And sometimes you have to be at your lowest point just to finally shut everything out and listen and hear them and recognize that they're out there. When we get away from our narcissism, we start to figure out, there are people out there that want to help us, and we can't do it all ourselves. But we're a bunch of narcissists in today's society, dude. Social media doesn't help that at all.
No, not at all. It's funny you say that, because like I kind of feel like I felt something similar in terms of finding somebody that is genuinely altruistic, right? Like
Yes.
that is incredibly hard to find. But I feel like over the past maybe 2 or 3 years, I've met a couple folks that like I can reach out to, and it's genuinely just like, dude, I just need help with a question or I need help with a
Yeah.
contact. And it's like, yep, no big deal. Hands off, you're good to go.
Cool.
So,
That's good
but
to hear.
yeah. Anyways, man. So you do a lot of stuff, and I'm really excited to talk because I think I've got your website pulled up too, and I kind of was doing a bunch of or a little bit of reading and everything. And I'm excited because I feel like you do a lot of really important stuff. You come from a really interesting background,
Yeah.
and I generally feel like I have an idea of who you are, but my goal really is to kind of tell your story. So
Okay.
if you don't mind, maybe starting with your introduction, maybe a
Well,
little
yeah,
bit.
you sure.
Yeah, and then we'll kind of just I'll start asking questions and trying to keep up taking notes.
Like brother, you're better man than I am. When I do my podcast, I don't take any notes. I'm just sitting there, I'm just winging it. My partner Ian Scotto, he's the brains behind the operation. He
I
knows it.
rabbit hole like mentally, so if I can
Yeah,
keep notes, then that
I,
keeps me on track.
that's why get yourself a partner so you can rabbit hole and they keep track. That's why. But no, I grew up normal. It's like everybody else. But I grew up, and my abuelo and abuela, my grandfather and my grandmother on my mom's side, they, and I think that's where a lot of my hard work ethic came from. Obviously from my mother, but especially from that side of the family, because they were Mexican immigrants. They were pickers. They all came over as pickers. And for those who know, as a pickers, that's somebody who comes and works in the field, a migrant worker. The derogatory term nowadays used to be the slang term, but I guess it's derogatory now. I never thought it was, because I never thought of as being derogatory. It's called wetback, because you come over from Mexico, come across the river. But they were, and I didn't see that part of it because I wasn't born yet, but I saw the end state when I was finally born, that they went from being pickers, just picking on a farm, to getting their own field, to getting their own crew, to where when I finally was born and coming to the farm, my grandfather and grandmother had their own farm. I mean, they really epitomized the American dream of hard work, being honest, being ethical, having some integrity, and being fair. And they went from nothing, literally nothing but their hands to work with, no skills at all. Of course they had, but no skills that in the United States we would call a skill, to being farmers and owning their own farm. And they kept employing other pickers to come on. And that was a tremendous experience for me, because just going to the farm, and they never complained. They never complained about their status. I never heard anything about our ethnicity, like because we're Hispanic or Mexican, that we were treated unfairly. Never heard any of that. If it was going on, it never came to my attention, because to us and the family, and especially my mom, and then I'll tell you about my dad as well, but my mom, it was hard work. It's like, if you didn't accomplish or get what you wanted, you didn't work hard. It was never, no, it's because your last name, because you're a little brown. No, it had nothing to do with that. In fact, my grandfather was one of the most respected men in the community of Delta, Colorado. And I knew that because I was always proud to go into town with him, to go to the co-op or go get something for the farm. And everybody knew Joaquin. It's like, hey, there's Joaquin. And he had his own call sign. Some of the güeritos, they couldn't speak Spanish. They call him Tony. Like, that's Tony. So, but it was like, I wasn't more than 5 or 6, but I could tell that every person that talked to him respected the hell out of him because of his work ethic. So that's where I was like, man, my grandfather, wow. I thought he was the coolest guy in the world. He's a farmer, but he's a farmer, but man, that's my hero right there. And my mom, of course, didn't ever let that go. And he didn't ever let that unfairness of who we were, whatever. And I don't believe we ever had it, but didn't let that creep into our head as being an excuse to never accomplish anything, or to not have to work your tail off. My father, the same way. Now, my father was from West Texas. His mother and father, though, they died when I never knew them. He was 1 year old when they both died. My grandfather on my dad's side was a World War II pilot. He was shot down. And I shot down, and I don't know where. All I knew is it was cool when I was younger, because I had his Purple Heart. I thought that was really neat. Cool. I didn't know what it meant, but it's like, wow, means something. And my dad, because I admired it so much, my dad let me have it. So, and then my grandmother, his mother on that side, died driving to Wichita there's a road here, and it hasn't changed much. and it's boring as heck. And she just fell asleep and she died. And my father grew up extremely, extremely poor. I mean, literally being a dirt farmer out in Spur, Texas, which is west of Lubbock. And my dad as well. Granted, we're talking ethnicities. No, he's Basque. He looks like West Texas, you know. But again, anytime that we didn't make the cut on anything, whether we didn't make a grade or we didn't make a team or so forth, because athletics was big in my family as well. It was never that we were shorted. Somebody cheated us. It was, maybe you needed to get up in the morning and work a little bit harder. Maybe you didn't put enough effort into it. Maybe you sat too much watching TV instead of going out there and taking a few extra swings. You didn't study enough. So my upbringing was a never quit upbringing. It was, hey, life isn't always fair, but it's your fault if you don't get to where you want, if you don't accomplish the things you want to accomplish. And that was on both sides, both from my mother and my father's side. But I always admired, and I was always proud that I still am the Mexican, the Latino side of me, because to me, man, the Latino gene is just a hardworking ethic. It really is. And you see that in today's society now. You see other ethnicities bitching about this and that, and Mexicans are just out there working and building. And I'm proud. So I'm always proud, because that reminds me of my grandfather. He's just always working, always busting his tail. But he loved us, and it wasn't hard. The family, there was a lot of love, and God was always there too. God was always there. I know you could probably relate to this. I was one of those kids that didn't like to I didn't want to go to church. I didn't want to read the Bible, but at least I knew God was there. And so as growing up, it's just really, it became just a normal, fun, lower middle class childhood. Played some sports. I got very good at football and basketball and baseball. My dad, I grew up on a football field. My dad coached Division I football, and he coached at Brigham Young. I mean, I still find that a blessing looking back on it now. Growing up and getting into my middle school and high school years, where my father was coaching Division I football, but getting to be where he went to BYU and was the assistant linebacker, who was assistant coach, the linebacker coach at BYU. And that was during the time frame of Jim McMahon, Steve Young, Robbie Bosco, national champions. And just to be around that, not that I knew it was cool. I knew it was an awesome thing. But I'm still young. I still don't really get it. But I think just by being around a guy like Coach Lavelle Edwards, they don't make head football coaches like that anymore, with that kind of ethics and that kind of demeanor, and just being around guys like that. Mike Holmgren, who later coached the Packers, and Norm Chow, who later coached the USC Trojans. Being around those people really, again, solidified the importance of hard work and ethics and integrity, and just being around those guys. It was incredible. I don't think there's athletes like that anymore either. I don't think you have those kind of athletes that, there's some ego there. Of course there is. But I would say there's more, I love your term, more altruism with those past athletes, the Roger Staubachs, the Steve Youngs of the world, than there are in today's professional sports. And I got to be around that. And it did make them work on me. Obviously, we're talking about it. And then went on and high school, and I got a football scholarship. So I played college football, and that's where the Army started to come. As I had no intentions of joining the Army. It wasn't like, wow, I'm going to follow in my grandfather's footsteps. I never knew him. I just knew he died, got shot down in the Army Air Corps. And so I was always wanted to be an athlete, and I was a pretty good football player, but the problem with me is that I rested on my own laurels, and I was better my freshman year than my senior year because I got an ego. And that was a good learning experience. So I got worse. So there's no chance for me. I'm not going to play NFL, nothing like that. So I'm walking through the quad one day. I remember that. And I remember walking through the quad at Mesa College. Now it's called Colorado Mesa University in Grand Junction, Colorado. Got my bachelor's degree. And of course, there's a job fair, and there's everybody around, and you see these guys there. And of course, the military recruiters are there. There's a Navy, Air Force, Army guy. And this Army recruiter yelled across the room. And I think I was the only one stupid enough out of all the students to turn around and actually acknowledge him, because nobody else did it. I just was the only one. There's students everywhere. And he saw me and he said, "Hey, come on over here." I'm like, well, here we go. Okay. But, of course, Army recruiters, they're not going to show you all the really hard stuff. They're going to show you the cool stuff. I mean, there are some cool, hard stuffs, but they're going to show you the cool stuff. So I saw a Ranger video from the Safe with Ranger Regiment, and then I saw a SEAL video. And honestly, what I asked them, I do remember this. I just looked at them, and I'm looking at all that. I'm looking at the Army, the Rangers black beret. Now it's tan because, of course, General Shinseki, in his not wisdom, I'm going to say in his stupidity, gave the whole Army the black beret. But back then, we were the only ones that wore that black beret. And I remember seeing that black beret and just kind of falling in love with the Ranger picture. That, and he looked hard, that beret's down, it's over his eye, it's cocked off to the side. And it's like, wow, that's a hard mother effer. And, he's got that jaw, he got the Sergeant York, chin. And I asked him, and this is what sold me, as I said, is it hard? And the recruiter said, well, hell yeah, it's hard. I said, do people quit? And he goes, yeah, people quit all the time. There's not a very high success rate. And that actually sold me, because it was like, man, this is going to be a challenge. All right, this is something that I might not make. I'm not worried about failing, but man, to me, it was, I guess as a kid, you're trying to be better. You're trying to figure out where that pecking order is within society. And to me, it was the challenge within myself was one thing. It was kind of scary because the possibility of failure was there, but it was, I'm going to be better than you. And as far as arrogance goes or not, that was what I was thinking. And I think there's a misconception within a lot of the people with a lot of country that those that don't serve. When we first go in, especially special operations, for the most part, we really aren't doing it for patriotism or service of our country. Yes, we do. Of course, we want to serve. We're willing to, but it is more of a test for ourselves. It's a test for, do I have what it takes? Do I have what it takes to make it to that level? Once you get in and you start doing missions and you start working with the different teams, that's when that patriotism and that service starts to come in. So I wouldn't say, I didn't join because of patriotism. I joined because I wanted to prove something to myself, is really what it was.
Okay.
And went in the Army, and it was difficult. I was married, my first wife, and she didn't want to be part of it at all. And nothing bad against her. We're friends now. She's a wonderful woman. She's got wonderful kids. We just got married way too young, that's all it was. But while I was in, I just didn't have that maturity level enough to handle adversity. So I'm already going through a lot of pressure. You go through infantry piece. I was a distinguished honor graduate. It really did. The Army actually did fit to me. I felt like a round peg in a round hole. I'm going in. This works. Distinguished honor grad, got through airborne school. Airborne school is not hard anymore. It used to be. It isn't. It's kind of a joke now. It's not hard at all. But you do get banged up because you're always landing, practicing landing, and then of course your jumps. But got through that easy. Went through the Ranger indoctrination program. That is the kick in the ass to try to make it to the 75th Ranger Regiment. People, for all your listeners out there is a difference. If you go through Ranger school, that doesn't make you a Ranger. You got to go through what they call RASP now, Ranger Assessment Selection Phase. It used to be called RIP. You go through that to go to the actual Ranger Battalion and serve at a Ranger unit. And that's hard. It's 3 weeks of hell is what it is. But we understand that, it's supposed to be hard. There's supposed to be hazing. There's supposed to be people that quit. That's why you're there. Because you are trying to get to the cream of the crop. And if guys can't take a little hazing, they're not going to be there for you when the bullets start cracking by their head. But I got through that, and then I went to battalion, and things were going great. And then I fell apart because this is for the admin of cell phones. We're out in a training op at Fort Bragg, doing a joint readiness exercise with DevGru and Delta and Task Force 160th, and then of course elements of 82nd and so forth. So it's a big exercise. I couldn't get a hold of my wife, and you can only use pay phones because there's no cell phones, guys. This is way before the advent of cell phones. So you youngsters, you had to actually go find a pay phone. But during the time, I couldn't get a hold of my wife, and finally I just you get that spider sense that something, and you know where I'm going with this. Yep. Something's not right. I called my brother, and he goes, "I don't know how to tell you this, but she's cheating on me." And long story short, she was having an affair, and I couldn't handle that adversity, especially being a private at Ranger Battalion. Just because I got to Ranger Battalion didn't mean that I had accomplished anything in the eyes of Rangers that have been there forever. All I am is I'm the new guy that made it through 3 weeks of hell. I ain't done shit. I keep getting, and so it's extremely high pressure until you go to Ranger school, get your tab, and then come back and they start putting you in the leadership positions.
Mm.
So, so it's not easy. I think that Ranger Battalion, when you're a private, is miserable, but it's supposed to be miserable. But you are learning. Oh, you learn so much. So it's a wonderful and miserable time all wrapped into one. It is very high stress though as well, because you don't want to let your teammates down, and you're the new guy, so you're trying to learn everything on the fly, but it's difficult to do. So that didn't help, and it just set me over the edge. So when I went back home on our block leave, we each get a block leave. It was time, and mine was around Christmas time. I lost my mind, and actually I wrote about it in the Ranger Way on my second book. This is out there. I'm not telling anybody anything that's not out there already. Like, oh crap, got you, Tano. Look at you're a criminal. And I am. I've done some criminal things, but I'm not a criminal. But I went to the guy's house. She was messing around with me. I thought he was going to come home, and I waited outside his house because I was going to shoot him. And the upbringing, the never quit God in my life talked some sense into me, honestly. And also what happened, I think God stepped in, because as I was going to his house, right before I got there, I got stuck in the mud. It had been raining, and this house was built where a bunch of new houses were going to be. And I got stuck. So I was trying to get my vehicle out. I'm starting, my brain's starting to clear. I'm starting to sober up too, of course, because all that.
Sure.
And no, God works in mysterious ways, and we have to learn. But when I did that, I still, I still was found out, small town, local law enforcement, and then the mental health and all that. So I went home, and the law enforcement were real good with me. Honestly, they knew who I was, and I hadn't done anything. And again, God's looking out for me. I've got people out there going to say, well, you got extra chances because who you were. Well, it wasn't because of the name. It's just, I was a guy that was respected in the community because of the work I'd put in, playing football, being a good student, being and so forth. So, but it was a difficult time. And I went to the psych ward, and I was in there with some Vietnam veterans at a VA hospital in Grand Junction for almost a month. That was an eye opener, man. That was complete eye opener to talk to guys that actually were there for horrendous acts. And I'm there feeling like, wow, I'm a put. What am I doing in here? Not that I loved them there. That's when I even have more respect for Vietnam veterans, just from that time of being in there with a lot of those guys that really, they went through some shit, and they're still dealing with it for their life. They're still dealing with it. And it was 20 years after, 30 years after. But long story short, guys, if you want to read about all that, read the book, but Ranger Way. But I ended up getting discharged from the military. And again, God's looking out for me, really is, because I had two commanders. I had a first sergeant who is now retired command sergeant major. His name was Frank Grippy. And one of the most decorated Rangers and most decorated infantry enlisted guys in the Army. I mean, he's got mustard stains. He's been through three combat tours with Grenada, Panama, and then now he was also with the 10th Mountain Division, was in Afghanistan and Global War on Terror. I mean, this is the guy that's on the ground with the privates dropping mortars in the mortar tube as a sergeant major. And then I had a captain by the name of Pete LaCamera, who's now a 3-star general. Somehow I was supposed to get discharged, not dishonorably, but it was going to be with just general conditions. And that's, other than honorable. That's it, bro. You get that when you get out of the Army on your DD 214, you're basically blacklisted from any job. You're done.
Yeah.
And they managed to get me an honorable discharge. I maybe they saw something in me. I don't know what it was, but literally, and I say that when I always talk to Frank, I said, you guys saved my life. I want you to tell Pete, you saved my life by that little bit right there. Because without it, I don't know what would have happened to me. And so I never look a gift horse in the mouth. Things happen for a reason, and that was a gift. But what that allowed me to do is that I'm thinking back to my grandfather and grandmother. I'm thinking back to my mom. My mom's talking to me. They're trying to help me out. I'm thinking back to my dad. They weren't disappointed in me at all. They're parents. They care about their son. But I'm thinking back. I started this. I have to finish it. We don't quit. We can keep grinding. We keep moving on. And I did have to wait 2 years. That was one of the stipulations as far as my discharge goes. So I had to wait 2 years, and I had two choices: stay in Grand Junction and work just work at the Walmart or the gas station or work at the city market, or I could go back to college and get my master's degree. And the decision wasn't really that hard to make. But what helped too is my buddy who was still in college, I played football with. It was his last year. He was graduating. He saw how I was, and he's trying to pick me up. And he goes, "Hey, we're going to spring break. Come to South Padre Island with me. Let's go South." Forget it all. And so I did. And yeah, I had a lot of fun.
You
South
forgot
Padre.
it all.
I did, but the funny thing is that while I was there, I met my second wife. And yeah, you don't usually meet your wife on spring break. That story is funny in itself, because it was the first night out, and I got there with the guys, and it really felt like I had a second chance when we got there. I'm with my buddies. We're going out. We're at Louis. I think it was called Louis on the Lake, or it wasn't Charlie's on the Lake. It was Louis. It was Louis Bars. And I'm dancing with this, I think she's a very attractive girl. There's a lot of very attractive girls over spring break, and I'm drinking. And before the event of Fireball, they just had those cinnamon shots, and this waitress is dropping them cinnamon shots. Somebody bumps her, and it spills all over me. So I got all these cinnamon shots all over my side, and I'm not mad. I think, spring break, it's cool. And I ripped my shirt off, and I still give my wife, that's what I tell her. I said, that's why you fell in love with me. I ripped my shirt off, and you saw my chiseled chest and my 6-pack abs. And I give her that shit, and she's like, whatever. But it really was. We just hang out together the whole time while we were there. And while we were there, I found out she was still a senior at University of Nebraska at Omaha. And I had just completed my GRE. And I said, well, shit, I've never been to Omaha. I've never been to the Midwest. At least I know her. We get along great, and we started to kind of stay in contact and date, via the phone. And And I said, well, I'll apply for you. Yeah. I'll apply for UNO, and we'll see if I get in a graduate program in criminal justice. And I did. I applied there and got in, and I called her and I said, hey, I'm coming to Omaha. Can you find me a place to live? I don't care where it's at. I don't care how much it's cost. I only have a little bit of money. And she did. She found me a room in probably one of the worst parts of town, right across from the Mutual of Omaha building, which is near downtown. No air conditioning, no washer and dryer, in this house for $130 a month. And I couldn't have been any happier. And that's where I shot. And I got my master's degree. But in the back of my head during that time frame, I'm just thinking to myself, okay, I still got to get back in the Army. I got to finish what I started. And it was difficult because of the nature of my discharge, which is, whether it's honorable or not, the nature of it's still there. Mine said personality disorder. So it's basically saying, hey, mentally, there's something not right with this guy. You want to give him a loaded gun. But, what the stipulations was, though, is I could get that expunged, or at least it would get changed. My reentry code could get changed if I got 3 professional psych evaluations over a 2-year period from different doctors, and they didn't have to be military doctors. And I did, but it had to be over a 2-year period. And during that 2-year period, I remember I just fixed myself. I fixed myself. In the military, we say, hey, fix your fucking self or unfuck yourself. Well, that's what I did, because everything that had happened at that point, it was really my doing. I could have fixed, but I just wasn't at the maturity level to handle that. I didn't know how. And I did. I ended up getting a master's degree. I worked full time at the Mutual of Omaha building as a claims adjuster. So I was improving my life on the outside. I had a stable, me and my second wife, we dated, and it was a very stable, good relationship. And I finally found a recruiter after 2 years of trying that would help me. My initial recruiter, I still remember him when I first went in saying, hey, if anything ever happens, maybe he had foresight and he saw something down the line. I don't know. But he said to me, he goes, if anything ever happens, there's a waiver for everything to get back in. There's a way. And I always remembered that. So every time I went to a recruiter, they would look at, this is what happened. They'd look at my file, Austin, and I'd say, yeah, I want to go in infantry ranger. And they'd be all excited. And then they would see that, and you could just see their faces. They were like, just that disappointed of, I don't want to work hard for this. So I did have to find the right recruiter, and it happened to be very lucky that the head U.S. Army Recruiting Command, I didn't even know it for the first year I lived in this place, was a block from my house. I had no idea. I drive by it every day and not even think about it. And one day I went for a jog and I ran by, like, it's like, I felt like the face palm.
Yep.
Why? I'm an idiot. Why? So I go in there, and luckily for me, the Nebraska U.S. Army Recruiting Command Sergeant Major was in there. And I walked in there and I said, Sergeant Major, this is who I am. This is what I've done. And I was fully transparent. I said, I'll bring my file in. You can look at it. But I said, I want to go back in. And I said to him, I said, you have people that don't want to go in at all, that don't want to do this. I want to. And they managed to find me a way in. The only caveat was that I had to do it all over again. So I had to do basic, airborne, and RIP all over again and go back into Ranger Battalion as a private. And that's what I did. But the only reason I did that is, and I say is because of how I was brought up, being around my grandmother and grandfather as pickers. They never quit. You finish what you started. If you didn't make it, then whose fault is that? You work a little harder. And that's what I did. And I tell you what, the second time though, I knew what to expect. I was in such great shape. I mean, I could outdo the drill sergeants. I knew what was coming, and I was very blessed to be a very good runner. So I could run I could run like the wind for 5-6 miles. I still can run. I just can't run like the wind anymore. It's more of a slow, plodding Clydesdale jog, but I can still run. But yeah, I went in and I did very well. Got my Ranger tab. Came back to battalion, became a team leader, and then I went off to become an officer. And then, then of course, as life has it, you think everything's going extremely well, and then you get kicked in the teeth again. And I remember everything's going great. I'm actually an officer now. I'm commissioned. I'm a second lieutenant, just newly second lieutenant. And we're out in a training op. And my stomach hurt. His stomach was hurting really bad. But I just, I'm drinking as an infantry officer and even a ranger, you're drinking all the time. You're chewing tobacco all the time. You're working hard. You're not really you're playing hard and working hard. You're not really taking great care of yourself, but you're PTing all the time. So I'm going to be all right. And I remember I passed gas out on the training op, and what was something other than gas came out. And I thought, well, damn it, I just shit on myself. That's what I did. And, it was hot outside. I probably was dehydrated. We're in Benning. But when I reached back to see what, I did, I just went, oh, damn, what the hell? My hand was all sticky, and I could tell it was blood. And they rushed me to Martin Army Hospital out of the field. And they, of course, assaulted me with the tubes, endoscopy, colonoscopy, trying to find out what the heck's going on in my intestines. And they're like, the doctor came in, the GI doc, he's like, I don't even know, how are you still doing this? He goes, you have one of the worst cases of ulcerative colitis we've seen. And he said, we can't even tell if it's ulcerative colitis or Crohn's disease because you have indications of both. And for those that don't know, it's when your intestines are you have an autoimmune disorder. Your immune system is attacking itself because there was a bacteria in there. It got rid of it. My immune system is too stupid to know that it's gone, and it keeps attacking basically healthy cells. And it looks like road rash on the inside. And it was, you can't digest food because your intestines aren't working. And I lost 30 pounds. Granted, I got discharged from the military, but medically discharged. I have no complaints from the Army. They took care of me. I did get a medical retirement from them. But at that point in my life, I'm in my 30s, everything's going great. It really was. And I looked up to God, and I was like, why did I deserve it? It was like, why did I deserve this?
Yeah.
What did I do? What did I do that I deserved this? Because now I don't know what to do with my life. That's my life. That's what I was doing. I was good at it. And every day I'd lay in bed and I would try to get better. And it was hard because it's hard when you can't take in any nutrients for your body to recover. So through trial and error, of course, my beautiful wife, who was there with me the whole time, I started to figure out what I could eat and what I couldn't eat. And every day I'd get out of bed and I would do a push-up. And if I could do 2, I'd do 2. And over the next year, I figured out what was bad for me, what I couldn't eat. I researched it. I studied it. I got on healthy diets again, which is great. I'm not a vegan or anything, guys. I like red meat. I like fried food, but at that point in time, I had to figure out what causes and what would inflame my guts, because if I inflamed, I couldn't get any nutrients in. And it was a year of just not quitting, of not giving up, of not saying, man, life sucks. I'm just going to lay in my bed and say to hell with it and be done. And those, it was awesome. Those 2 push-ups turned to 3 push-ups, and they turned to 4 push-ups. And every day I get a little stronger. And every day I could figure out what I could eat and what I couldn't. And luckily for me, I could eat tuna fish. Tuna was so easy to eat, and meat. I could eat tuna fish and meat in my mouth. So I was able to get that protein that I needed. And then I could figure out what I couldn't eat, like bread or milk, and all. I couldn't eat it. I couldn't do any of that. And over that year, I even started to where I got strong enough to do enough push-ups. I just started walking the block, and then I jog half the block, and I just kept building up. And then after a year, I got a phone call from a company called Blackwater Security. I don't know if you've heard of it. And then I got another phone call from Triple Canopy, which were the 2 big ones to include DynCorp at that time. This was 2003, and the global war on terror's off. 9/11's happened. I'm watching all my buddies jump into places on TV, and I'm feeling like a piece of crap, just humiliated. So I get a call from Blackwater in 2003. My body's back up. I'm getting strong. I can actually go run 2-3 miles and be fine and do push-ups. So I built myself back up. And I remember they said to me, "Hey, do you want to go be a contractor in Iraq?" And I'm like, "Guys, I don't build houses. I don't know. I don't think you got the wrong number."
Wrong kind of contract.
I know, because no, I didn't know. No, I mean, they were so new at that time. I didn't know what a contract. And they said, no. They were like, "Hey," one of my buddies had got on Blackwater, and he referred my name to them.
Mm-hmm.
So they said, "Hey, man, we got your name from so-and-so. Oh, yeah, how's Ranger so-and-so doing?" He's like, "Yeah, it's fine." But they didn't want the small talk. They just wanted the business. And that, "You got the background that we need." They said, are you still in the military?" I said, "No, I'm medically retired." And thinking that, oh, shit, medically retired. They didn't care. Like, "Oh, okay, great. So you're not in." And it says, they said, "Are you healed? Are you okay?" And of course, I'm still healing. They don't know that. I'm, fingers crossed by my back. Yeah, I'm okay. And I'm thinking to myself, as far as I'm okay. I'll tell you, but I'm really not. Yeah, I said, "I'm okay. I'm good. I'm good to go." And they said, "Well, can you be down to Moyock and Blackwater's headquarters at the time? And can you go through this 3-week training process, vetting process to try out? And then we want you to go to Iraq, and this is what you're going to get paid. This is what you're going to be doing. And it's going to be under the State Department." And man, they had me at, "This is how much you're going to get paid." So at that point, man, I don't know if you've talked to other contractors in those early days, boy, we were making hand over fist money. It was unbelievable. And there was very little oversight. So the missions it was the Wild West. So we're making tons of money with little oversight. It was crazy, but it was crazy fun and crazy dangerous. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I did my thing at Blackwater. I would have went to Triple Canopy, but the only reason I did Blackwater over them is because Blackwater called first. They both are great companies, and they both had great owners at that time. Eric Prince on the Blackwater side, and then Delta legend Lee Van Arsdale on the Triple Canopy side. So I don't think I could have been wrong with either of them. But I went over there, and honestly, that's where the life of what people saw within 13 hours started. That was where that life started. And, I talk about a lot of that because everybody, I'd say everybody in your show, everybody's going through adversity. And I'd say, just keep pushing through it. Just keep going. Can't tell you when it's going to end, but if you keep pushing through it and you keep believing that you're going to succeed in whatever you do, and the bad stuff will end, and you keep working hard. So when that chance comes, when that opportunity comes, you're ready for it. Life's going to be great. And I use that as an example with the Blackwater thing. If I would have laid on my bed and felt sorry for myself for even an extra day or two, I wouldn't have been ready to go take on that next adventure, which was being a contractor. So you never lay and feel sorry for yourself. Like, "Oh, feel sorry for myself for a second. Okay, let's go bust my ass and try to get better and heal up or get healthier, stronger." So, but for the next 10 years, I was a contractor, and I got to do some amazing stuff. I worked in Baghdad. I worked in Al Hilla. I worked in Mosul. I worked all over Kurdistan. I worked in Kabul, Kandahar. I got to work in Yemen, Sana'a. I got, of course, Libya and Tripoli and Benghazi, and then all the safer Middle Eastern countries, Jordan and UAE. And then I actually worked in South and Central America as well, which was great. And I got to do anti-piracy work off the coast of Somalia in the Gulf of Aden after Captain Phillips was apprehended and attacked. There were 7 of us contractors. We were the first 7 ones to go on ships and ride the Gulf of Aden and ride the Red Sea. And so I was blessed. Honestly, I don't think I would have been able to experience as much as I did in the Army as I did as a contractor. And honestly, what was even better is that because you're a contractor, you don't have a lot of oversight. So there's a lot of more freedom. So when I'm not on that ship, I'm going out in town and finding out, oh my gosh, there's a Starbucks in Fujairah. What the heck? There's a bowling. You're actually experiencing the culture and the life, because when you're not working, it's on you. And if you die, it's on you. I mean, that's the other side. And with the areas like even Baghdad and the dangerous areas, you can't just go get a cup of coffee anymore. You can in Kabul. I don't know now, but we could back then. Still though, there was very little oversight. So which is good, we don't need that oversight, because we need to know the cities better than the locals. We need to know the areas, and we need to be immersed within there. So we learn the atmospherics when people do. The beauty of those jobs is that we get to do that. I get to go, and I know where all the cool bootleg DVD stores are. I know where all the souks are that you can buy weapons at. I know where the best cup of chai is off the Mediterranean. And that's what's awesome, is because you're not just stuck on a base. We're in the military. Maybe I would have got to do more direct action missions than I did as a contractor, which is that's cool in itself. But you really let off the base to go just really do the 007 James Bond surveillance, counter surveillance, while you're taking in all the city. And that was fun. I did it for 10 years and saw a lot of death. I did see a lot of life though too. A lot of people saved because of brave men and women and brave contractors out there. But I'm also a realist, and I became a realist knowing that even the best laid plans, sometimes people die. And even the damage, the collateral damage, people that are within that area where there may be an attack, they might die too. And I experienced that with the little girl. And so, a lot of stuff has stayed with me, but I really believe all of that leading up to it very well prepared me for the adversity that I went through working as a contractor. And then all that adversity as a contractor led up to the 10 years to when 9/11/2012 happened in Benghazi, Libya. And gosh, I'm sorry, but I talked your ear off right there. But then Benghazi happened, and I couldn't have been more prepared. And I could say that for the team. The team couldn't have been more prepared. God, again, a lot of faith in God. God put us there for that reason, not because we were any better tactically or technically or could shoot better or anything. Is because all of us were very in our 40s. So all of us had been through a lot of stuff up to that point, not just combat related, just life related. Had dealt with a lot of adversity, knew that things don't always work out correctly, but also knew that if we didn't quit fighting, that we're going to win. It gives us the best chance to win. We're going to think we're going to win, but honestly, it gives us the best chance to win. And that we also knew that we had to work together, even though, and I say this because I do a lot of public speaking now. I'm able to do it. Actually, I think I've gotten fairly good at it because I've been able to talk more and be more open about what happened. But I always give people that example that, there's a lot of those people out there that think that special operations troops and guys within those teams, we all are like best friends. We all love each other. We all get along. And no, I think that's the part that's there's sometimes we just can't stand each other, despise each other. But the beauty of those teams, being in the special operations teams, being with the agency and getting to be older in the agency, is how to put all those differences aside. You know how to put all those grievances, those petty drama grievances that you may have. We all know that when it's time to go to work, those all go by the wayside and we all have each other's backs. And that was that one team that had that. And that's not always the case in bases. I've only had that at one other base, and that was in Kandahar. A lot of times guys couldn't put those differences aside. And when that happened, work suffered, or the possibility of death or failure increased. But me and Oz don't like each other. I've never have. He's never really liked me, but I have his back if he needed me. And that night, we didn't let any of our differences get aside, and we worked extremely well together, as well as the rest of the team. And and we had to fight through a lot of adversity, because when you're going through battle and somebody dies, the battle's not over. So like, hey, time out. Hey, time out. The IT guy, Sean's dead. We can't, we got to figure this. You got to keep fighting. And then like, even at the end of the fight, when Roan and Bub were hit with mortars, and I was watching them. I was shooting over their heads when they got hit. So I was able to see the mortars actually strike their position. It's awful and it's terrible, but it really is amazing. It's amazing. I don't mean no disrespect to the Woods family or the Doherty family. I have the utmost respect for them. I have utmost respect for Bub and Ty. They're heroes. They're the heroes. They're the ones that sacrificed all. But when you're watching that, your brain is just trying to see that, and it's almost it's an eerie brutality, but it's also a brutal beauty, because it's just shooting, and there's it's still night. The movie showed it was kind of daytime. It was still early morning, nautical twilight. It was still right before the sun come up, so I still had my night vision on. And every bullet you shoot that comes out that weapon is heated. You can see it. And I'm just seeing those guys shoot, and I'm popping over their heads, and then all of a sudden just seeing and feeling the concussion, because I'm only about 40 meters away behind this parapet. I just feel the concussions coming at me, and I see the flashes of light, and then they're gone. And all I see is this pixie dust raining down. And usually when there's an explosion, hold on, buddy. I know already. You hungry? Okay, I'll come feed you. That's why I love my life. It's my little boy. He knows not to come in the camera. He says, I'm hungry. I'm hungry. Okay, so I'm gonna go feed him. But seeing and getting back, and if you want to edit this in or however you want to do it, I think that's awesome having that in there, because that's what it's all about now is family, man. With me, that's my mission now, is to be the best father I can be and husband. But when you see that flash of light, when things like that explodes, mortars, IEDs, big explosions go off, Katyusha rockets, after that flash in their night vision, you see the particles and the debris that rains down. And most of that is either heated or charged. So it looks like pixie dust. And it was the weirdest thing. Everything just went silent. And I remember seeing the pixie dust come down. And I remember seeing all my teammates that were there, they were gone. So my brain is telling me, man, your team just got turned to dust. And I did put my head down after I did. That's the one time negatively I put my head down, and I did. And I shook it, and I said to myself, we can't beat this. We don't need air support. That's what I said. So I'm thinking, man, we didn't get any air support. Big military, they're not coming for some reason. We know now why, but I didn't know at the time. All I was just like, but go back to my grandfather and grandmother. Go back to my mom and dad. You never quit. And that's all I heard was like, get your gun up. And God saying, get your gun up, Ranger. In my head, I'm going, we don't quit. We don't quit. We don't quit. And we kept fighting, and we fought them off. But that's the beauty of life and what goes on. Even the bad parts, they're all to help us learn and get stronger. And if I hadn't been through those divorces, the ulcerative colitis that damn near killed me, the failing the military the first time, and then even just the little failures of not making standards when you run, or not making the grade, when you're doing your first EIB test on MC, they're all there to challenge us, and they're all there to get us stronger if we're able to overcome them. And every one of us can. It's just sometimes we choose not to. But I chose to overcome all of them, and it started with my grandfather and grandmother, my abuelo and abuela, being pickers and never giving up the American dream to become successful, and never letting us remember that hard work is what's going to take to accomplish a goal and to become successful, whatever that may be. It doesn't have to be you're a millionaire. It just could be just to become successful. So that's it as far as my story up to Benghazi. So, yeah, brother, but do me a favor. Can I go get my son?
Yeah, 100%. I'll pause it and
I'll be right back. He's awesome. It's like Forrest Gump. It's like, well, I ran it in a block. Well, I ran this far. Might as well just keep on going.
No, you're good, man. It's funny because So I was taking notes, right? Kind of like, okay, cool. Here's some questions. And it's kind of funny because I feel like every step of the way you more or less answered questions that I was thinking about. Because one thing that always intrigues me is what it is that keeps people going when shit really does go south,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it sounds like you've had a couple of those moments where
Yeah.
things just didn't go right, or they
Yeah.
went completely wrong, or for lack of a better phrase, rock bottom.
Yeah.
But consistently it sounds like it was just don't quit. We don't quit, keep going.
Yeah. That's really it is that easy. People think that there's some magic elixir or there's something else. It really is. It's your brain. Your brain's going to quit on you before anything else. Your body can continue to go through so much punishment. I even had those moments in Benghazi. I had those moments at Ranger School, um, and where I just wanted to give up, and my brain was what wanted to give up. It wasn't my body. My body wasn't going to. I knew that my body would keep going until it just didn't have anything else left, and then I'd just fall over. But it was my brain that I had to talk in to keep going. Whether it
Yeah.
was the first wall that we hit when we were first went on foot in Libya, where we hit that first wall, and I try to pull myself up it, and I'm 40 some. I've got all this gear on. I did have shorts on. That wasn't movie magic. I actually still have those shorts. The shirt was different. I was wearing a Mickey Mouse shirt that night. We just couldn't put that in the movie. Shocker. If it was, I don't want to get into politics and Disney and all that. Gosh, but yeah, I hit that first wall, pull myself up, and just like, man, I don't. And then as I looked over the wall, I saw wall after wall after wall. There were no mouse holes we could go through. There were no doors that we could go through. And like, oh my gosh, I don't. We're just barely starting, and I'm already smoked. And I remembered, you know, I remembered Mountain Phase Ranger School. I thought back to it, and I thought back the mountains that we went up with 70-pound rucks, and here I'm bitching about an 8-foot high block wall. And it was like in my head, I went, "You've done this before. You can do it again." And I said some expletives to myself saying that, but as soon as I said that, my brain's like, "Yeah, I got this."
Yeah.
And then my body, I got winded a few times, but there was nothing where I couldn't get to where I needed to go. Pull myself over walls, jump if I needed to over, over a car hood. Not the cool guy way. I don't, the cool movie slide on it. Not like just move fastly over a hood if I have to skip it. You'll climb up ladders, climb down ladders. I wasn't burnt. My muscles didn't burn at all the rest of the night. And I attested to was me just saying, to hell with it, I can do this. I've done it before.
Yeah.
So yeah. Your brain, if you say you think you can't, all that is, if you think you can't, you can't.
Yeah.
If you think you can, and you can. But
So for you then, in those moments when you started to think you couldn't, was it genuinely just thinking back to your grandma, your grandpa, your parents, or was there something else that you're like, no, I need to do this for me, for my team, for my buddies, even though I'm annoyed as fuck with them. I have to do X.
That's always there. Yeah, no, if you're on a team, you're the saying that you are there for the guy to the right and left of you. That is true. That is always true. You do not want to be that guy that quits. It's the same way I joined when I said, hey, this is when I talked to the recruiter and I said, do people quit? He said, yeah. And that's why it was challenging to me. It's because I didn't want to be one of those guys that quits. So when you first go in, whatever, the never quit was there from my family and my parents. It was always there. And it was playing football. And that also being a teammate, learning how to be a team player. College athletics, high school athletics always help that. You learn teamwork. But when you get into the military, it gets taken to the next level. And you don't want to be that guy that quits because you will let everybody else down. And believe me, that it's happened before. Luckily for me, it's happened in training with other guys, but you see what happens and the effect it does to the rest of the platoon, the squad, and the negativity and the possibility of people dying if that happens. But also just, I know when everybody gets the trophy and all that other stuff that I think we're finally starting to get away from that. But the shame you feel when you let other people down, shame and guilt are very powerful learning tools. And I don't think we should lose those. I'm not saying we have to shame everybody, but feeling the shame of you being that guy that quit and let everybody else down on this mission in a training exercise, that will make sure that you don't quit again. Or, you know what, maybe this isn't for you. Rangers aren't for everybody. Maybe we need to send you somewhere else. So yeah, that of course was there. The quitting was already ingrained in me. I'm not going to give up based off what my grandparents, grandma, and grandpa said. But then you take it to the next level. It's like, I'm not quitting, because if I do, Tyrone's going to die. Oz is going to die. You know, they're relying on me just as I'm relying on them. When you get to those levels, though, as far as SEALs, Rangers, Special Operations Unit, paramilitary units, you know, when you get in your 40s and you've been doing this for 18, 19 years, it's pretty much ingrained in you that you don't quit. So even those people that may not have had the upbringing that I had, they may have had a worse upbringing. Even there's some that come from the ghettos, the streets, of really hard upbringings, more than me. I was lower middle class. I still had a good upbringing, but even those that go through even better upbringings, once you get 18 years in, you didn't get those 18 years in by quitting on anything, especially quitting on teammates. So by that time, it had become just habitual. You just don't give up. You don't quit. You by 100% and then some. Though I be the lone survivor, nah, I'm the last. Even if I'm the last man standing, I'm not going to give up. And you certainly don't give up on your team, and you're willing to give your life for your team. That's the military. I think there may be something in us that people that join, especially go in special operations community, we all have egos. I don't want people to ever think that's the case. And I don't know. And if some military, some special ops guy says that, yeah, he didn't do it a little bit for himself, he's lying to you. Nah, just a little bit. Yeah, we're trying to prove ourselves, but we also will be willing to give ourselves for others, sacrifice ourselves for others. John 15:13 is one of the biggest, most well-respected verses in the military. And I'll paraphrase it, but it's, love is no greater than this, that a man lay down his life for his friend. If you go to Texas A&M and you go to the Corps cadets, they have it on it said John 15:13 right above where they do their parade. Their parades. When I say where they stand and they do their I don't know, you call our cadets. Well, they stand and they stand in formation. They do their formations. I shouldn't call them parade. They're parade fields. They do formations. So that's completely ingrained in you too. So I would say, yeah, it was already there with my family. Definitely was. And I'm always thinking back, because my grandfather and grandmother and my mother made a big impact on me. And of course, growing up, it's just taken the next level when you go into those branches of service. Sure. But to say that there's a special gene or anything that somebody has, no, it's not. We all have it, but it's like anything else. The more you work with it, like a muscle, the more you lift it, the more you work it, the stronger it gets. Well, that belief of don't let anybody down, don't quit, gets stronger and stronger, because we continually are pushed to that limit in training to quit. And we have a choice to either quit, then see ya. Bye. There's no second chances, guy. We'll see broken skull challenger, Steve Otts, catch you down the road. Or you didn't quit, you're here. All right. You've become even more part of the team. Now we're going to give you a little bit more responsibility. Now we're going to put you in a pipeline to become a leader and get in leadership positions. So that never quit attitude, not only is it beneficial to your brothers, that you are rewarded for it as well as leadership positions, because or getting into maybe a team that you want to get into, and they're very selective, because that's part of it. Not just being tactically and technically sound, you have to be mentally tough, and that's where that comes from the training, if you don't already have it prior to going in, as far as having the practice at it, which that's where I was very lucky. I already had it in practice growing up at a young age, whether I knew it or not. The never quit attitude was always ingrained in me, because we never believed in my family that that we were giving anything for free. And we never believed in my family that if we didn't get something, that we didn't get it because of race or ethnicity or discrimination or anything. It's just we didn't work hard enough to get it. Or maybe it's just not our time to get it. So yeah, I'd say, yeah, it's there in the beginning, but yeah, it definitely perpetuates and gets stronger within the branches of services, especially the special operations community. Definitely.
So with that type of mentality, right? The never quit, always moving forward, right? What did that translate into in terms of different skills that you've learned that you're like, man, this was incredibly helpful through all of your life experiences?
I think everything. everything, because I've never been naturally good at anything. I've always had to work at it. Writing books. That's are you kidding me? I like, man, and I do have a lady, Melissa Moore, that helps me. She does help me write them. As far as, she's a professional writer. I'll put my thoughts on paper. Then she, this is probably what we want to say, but I do have a coach, a mentor. They're helping me. But that is parts where I didn't want to, you just don't want to do them anymore. Like, I don't want to write. It's like a homework assignment. The
Yeah.
Ranger Way was fun. Actually, that one was okay. I was extremely busy, so it was just finding the time to do it. But that's where that never quit came in. Is that I was finding the time to do it in between traveling because that was when the movie came out, so we were busy promoting the movie. I was actually still doing a lot of media at the time. I was doing a lot of speaking at the time, not corporation so much, but more political speaking because of the election. And of course, Benghazi guy, Hillary's running. The politicians see, they see dollar signs and stars in their eyes, like, oh yeah, we got to have these guys. So I'm all over the place. So the last thing I wanted to do was come back to my motel room. I'm gone from my family too, which was hard. And that's a whole nother story. In fact, we can even get into that. But come to my hotel room and write a book, write anything down on paper, or even speak into a recorder, so I can get my thoughts on paper later. I don't want to do that. And it's like I'd lay down and like, gosh, you got to get this done. It's just going to wear on you. You don't quit on this. You already started. They want this. You have a deadline. So I would make myself do it. I think that translates very well into everything that we do. You don't want to put that extra work in sometimes on the weekend, but sometimes you have to, and that really did help me after, in those 3 years from 2016 on to which is when the book and the movie came out, to about 2000. Actually, it was 2015, I want to say. And help me with my dates here. I'm sorry, I could be off a year, but I remember that 2013, I was still working in Yemen, and then the shit hit the fan, and we came forward and said the truth, and we were all suspended from the agency. Basically, we were all fired. We all had our clearances suspended. And then the book, we started in 2014. So really, the book came out in 2015, and things got a little bit busier. But that's when my life really took a huge turn south, and in 2016 even more so. And you say, well, how does that happen? Well, guys like myself aren't bred to be out in the spotlight. I'm not. It's nothing I ever wanted to do. And your ego, you can buy in your own bullshit. And I did, and my ego went through the roof. It did. And this is even before the movie came out. And and then also the books and so forth, and writing the second book, and that never quit out. It was there, but I had forgotten. I'd forgotten really what had gotten me to that point, and that was my family. And so you got to be careful with that never quit attitude too. Don't forget where your baseline is. Don't forget who got you. Don't forget who stood by you. And I had almost relied more on just myself. I could do this. The never quit attitude. That's what can happen. So there's a downside to it too, guys. There is. You have to, like anything else, you have to be moderate. There's moderation everywhere. I'm not saying to give up on anything, but when you're thinking to yourself, gosh, I don't think, man, I've been through, look at all this stuff I've been through. I didn't quit. I didn't give up. And it's always worked out to me. I stopped praying. I stopped reading my Bible. Me and my wife, second wife, divorced. I started messing around. I started, and my life was hell. And because I was like, I can get through this stuff. I can do this. I never don't. The other things and the other intangibles that come with it, I'd forgotten. So there is always not just a never quit. There's other things that go along with it. And I know your listeners, if they have been listening, have heard me talk about God and prayer and family many times. Those things have to be part of that as well. And Benghazi did, though, save my life again. It did. In 2017, I tried to commit suicide. The whole spiel, crying game. I was in the crying game shower scene, naked, crying. And I laugh about it now, but it really was, like crying in the shower. I'm alone. I'm divorced. My kids, they're all still young. I'm missing their lives. And I looked in the mirror, and I did. And this is the third attempt. I'd actually attempted 2 times earlier, but but this one to me was the most serious because I mean, the gun was in my mouth. I mean, it was, and I remember looking in the mirror in my bathroom and I said, man, okay, you've never quit anything. And now you're going to quit on one of the most important things in this world, and that's yourself and your family. And so I said, and I also said, do I want to live like this the rest of my life? And it took me 3 times to look at myself. I couldn't do it right off the bat. I was too ashamed. And when I finally was able to, I said, do I want to live like this the rest of my life? And then I thought about Benghazi, like, man, you went through hell and made it out. There's a reason for that. And I put the gun down. Now people will tell me, and I have others, and even when I've talked, I do tell that story in some of my speeches talks I have to corporate in the corporate speeches I do. Some of them have said, you know what, Benghazi is what led you to that. I beg to differ. I would have been that route anyway. I'd seen too much horrific deaths and lost too many friends, and then also on the ultimate highs, seen too many lives. It's a roller coaster. Benghazi just expedited it. And sure. After Benghazi, expedited even more with the spotlight, with the look at me public figure spotlight. Yeah, how many likes do I have on Instagram? Man, I got so many likes on Twitter. Oh my Lord, social media and all that. Benghazi's what actually saved me, because I thought back to it and I'm like, man, you went through hell and you're going to give up on yourself now. And I put the gun down and I went back to my wife on my hands and knees, cut up all the toxic relationships that I had. I had a lot of them. And I laugh at it now because it's almost disgusting. To me, it's just disgusting to me. But my wife's an angel, and they were going to Disney World for Christmas. It was around Christmas time. And I said, hey, can I go? And she said, yeah, you can come with us. And well, I don't go to Disney now, because for right now, until they get there, when they start being Disney again and stop being a political arm first. So I don't really mess with Disney now too much. But back then, it was a feeling where I could just let everything go and just be a kid again. And I went back to Disney, and it was 2017, the Christmas time, and we were at the Polynesian Village. We have a timeshare. So we're DVC members, Disney Vacation Club members. And I remember walking in and just feeling like I had another, like when I went to Nebraska and with her, to live with her, I had a new start. And it was awesome. And things have been, brother, things have been fantastic since then. Ever since then, life has been what I ever wanted to be. Like we talked about, sitting on the porch, drinking some of my vodka out in the Midwest, birds chirping on my rocking chair. That's how I envisioned my life to be. Actually, later, I've actually hit there earlier. So to me, I'm like, wow, this is all gravy now. Everything we do now is gravy. Now, what is my mission? Because all of us veterans and everybody in the military, when you suffer from post-traumatic stress, it's because you lose a mission, you lose a goal, and we lose our way because we're not given that way anymore. Well, my goal now is to be the best father and husband that I can be, and that's my job, and I'm good at it now. I when I'm home, my kids hate it now. Like, Dad, you don't have to walk us in anymore. Like, nope. I want to walk you guys in. So every day of school, I drive them to school. I walk them in. I have a 6-year-old, my little guy that you saw come in, he's 6. So how blessed am I? I have a 17-year-old that's awesome, but I did miss a lot of his life growing up. I have a 13-year-old that I missed a lot of her life growing up as well. God blessed us with a 6-year-old that I actually get to spend now and get to enjoy those young years. Yeah. So I'm walking in and I pick them up every day, and I'm walking to class and yeah, it's pretty freaking amazing. And my wife, she could do a hell of a lot better than me, dude. I've outkicked my coverage with her. She's if it gives you any idea, she was an All-American volleyball player. And volleyball players are known for doing a lot of squats, lots and lots of squats and jumps. So they have developed that area of their body that it doesn't go away with age. So that's good for me.
So you're blessed in a lot.
I am very blessed. But yeah, bro. I like to tell that part of the story because I think it puts perspective again, where civilians see military personnel, especially those in the special operations community, as having some sort of special gene, they're superheroes more or less. And I think the movies and stuff, there are things that we do, like 13 hours is pretty dang accurate. I mean, that's what happened. But we go through, we're just like we are. I'm even more fallible than most people because I sometimes don't think things through. And I think a lot of us, because of our egos, our alpha maleness, we become even more fallible because we start to believe in that we can do everything on our own.
Yeah.
And that's far from the case. So that's why I like to say that, because I go through the same deals that everybody else does, the problems that everybody else has, and I have to deal with them, and even some of them even more so. But I have, and you can too, because you just have to continue to drive on and keep grinding, and you don't quit, and bring God in your life, and make sure you bring your family in your life, and just, even the bad times, learn from them, learn how to overcome those obstacles. So when you're faced with that obstacle again, I already did it. Hence the wall, me pulling up on that wall and being like, man, this sucks. I'm going to burn on this. And then thinking back to running up a trail at Mountain Phaser Ranger School with a 70-pound ruck, going, okay, I've done this before. This was a lot harder than this. This is nothing. So yeah, that's essentially it though. And that's why even after Benghazi, to me, we're really the never quit story. Really is more important to talk about than just what happened that night.
Yeah.
They're both important, but to me, I think that resonates and helps more people, and it definitely helps me too. It's very cathartic to me. I don't say it's not, but it will help more people than just the battle of what took place. So yeah. Oh, hey, I'm gonna shut the door. I got GQ. I got my wife
okay.
Just got. Yeah. No. I'm gonna just shut the door right quick.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll be right back. Oh, never mind. My wife knows. She just got, my daughter does horse riding, and she just got back from horse riding, and they just got home. And if you saw me with my ice pack on my back, you also know that we also suffer injuries. Even I was out at the range today shooting, and I do PT at the range when we're shooting out here. And I still have to, my back is taking a beating from other years. So I still ice this thing. Yeah. I'm sorry, brother, but go ahead.
No, you're good, man. I was going to say, so I want to be respectful of your Friday night. So we're recording on Friday, right? And I would love to sit down again at some point, but
yeah, of course.
Maybe one of my favorite questions is, this is always super loaded, but obviously the never quit attitude is incredibly important and kind of I'd say a defining quality. But of all of the things that you've learned and experienced, what is maybe the one thing that you wish you would have known, maybe going into all of it, or don't share with people a lot that you're like, this is something I feel like others could benefit from? So maybe a two-part question.
Sure. Humility is something that any leader that I've had before me that I really thought was a great leader had humility. That's what we talked about Coach Lavelle Edwards. They don't make coaches like that anymore. He was a leader of course, in his line of work, of great men who did tremendous things with Jim McMahon's and the Steve Youngs and so forth. Now, I didn't know it at the time. I don't know if I was learning it, but he was extremely humble as well. And I didn't learn that until how to be humble, the humility portion of it, until I tried to kill myself. Okay. And God humbled the hell out of me. God said, okay, you arrogant SOB, let me kick the legs out from you a little bit. Even through all the stuff that I'd been through with the colitis and getting kicked out of the military the first time, I was humiliated that first time I got booted out of the military. And I shouldn't say boot, because boot sounds like I got dishonorably discharged. I was very lucky. I should have, but I didn't. But I was humiliated, but I didn't learn humility. I hadn't figured that out. The humility didn't come till I was 45. Around 45. And it's that last one I had to look in the mirror. Try to look in the mirror at yourself and see if you can do it. If you can't, then there's things that you need to work on. I want to say, well, we all have those issues. If we can't look at ourselves in the mirror, then we need to figure out we're doing something wrong in our lives that we're not proud of. And a lot of times it's the arrogance, the ego, the pride in the bad side, the 7 deadly sin pride, not the pride that I'm proud of myself or I have pride for my son and what he does, or pride for, my house is well done. It's the pride of of the air of being of the ego. Humility is something that a lot of us don't have anymore. And I think that's a problem in society. And social media is a big part of not having that humility. You know, and when you're worried, and I was there worried about the number of likes that you've had more than you're worried about the number of hugs that you've given your kids or they've given you. There's some humility issues that you need. And and sometimes humility kicks us and knocks our teeth in and knocks us to our very core and brings us to our knees. But there are times that's okay, and you just learn from it. And that's what happened to me. My humiliating experience where I actually understood humility came later in life. I said I was in my 40s, 45, and I had to hit rock bottom to figure that out. If I would have known that earlier, I would have probably lived my life more virtuous, and hence I would have had less difficulty in it. And it still would have been just as challenging, but I didn't. But that was okay. That's what I had to do. I think there's a lot of us out there that could do with some more humility or just being more humble in our lives, and that comes with even just I don't even see that much anymore. It's not chivalrous. I wouldn't say that. I would say it's very respectful, but also shows your humility when you're holding the door open for somebody.
Yeah.
Or you let somebody in line. I mean, you're being nice, let somebody in line in the supermarket, or you see an old lady trying to grab something off the top of the rack at grocery store and you get it for, right? That's helpful, but it is showing some humility. It's showing respect and showing other things. Or my thing with humility now is honestly, I when I'm out, I will always listen to what somebody has to say, and I won't let it get to me. Very often. Now I'm human still. There are times, but I'm going to listen to what you have to say and hear you out, and then if we disagree on something, then we'll explain it and talk to each other, talk it out. So in today's world, I don't think there's a lot of that out there, because every one of us has to be right about everything, and we can never just be wrong. And if you have humility, you can be wrong, and that's how you learn. If you haven't heard anything that what I've talked about all day, I learned by being wrong and failing. I failed. I was wrong. I learned from it. Okay, I'm finally at this point. Now there's more I can still learn, definitely. And I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect. God's perfect. That's it. There ain't nobody else. We all make mistakes all the time. But having that humility, you understand that. And you understand that you're always trying to work on making yourself a better person by correcting those mistakes. And also another thing is, I wish I would have read the Bible every day. It helps me every day now. And I don't read it in a certain fashion. I just open it up, and that's the passage I need to read that day. I do. I'm glad God was in my life, but since I've started reading it every day, it's given me more direction of what I need to do, of what I can do to help others, or what maybe what prayer I need to say for someone else. Or it's just, the Bible is always there as a blueprint to help us. And we push it away because God today is a little bit taboo in speaking about it. I don't have a problem speaking about God, and more people are coming back to that, which shows humility. It shows that, hey, maybe we don't know anything, don't know everything, but it can be more so. And I wish I would have learned that earlier. If I would have learned that earlier, probably wouldn't have went all the evil demonness that I did from 2015 to 2017.
Yeah.
When really I was living, hey man, I was burning the candle at both ends. I was living the vice life. Every vice that was out there, I was into. And it damn near killed me. One thing I didn't do is I didn't read the Bible at all. I forgot about God until God said, remember me? hey, I'm right here. And so I would say, even at a young age, read it. That's that blueprint for you right there. Understand it and be virtuous and be humble as best you can. You can be proud. And there are times where, hey, you score that winning touchdown. I get it. You're in high school. I've been there. Hey, run that touchdown and you score it and you win the game with no seconds left. Yeah, you feel proud, be a little arrogant, but also give thanks for what happened, and don't rub it in other people's faces. Yeah, I would say those two things right there. But I had to learn those things the hard way, and I know a lot of people, especially a lot of the high school kids and the adolescents, will have to learn it the hard way, like I did. It's just part of it. I had people telling me this exact same thing that I'm telling you right now that I didn't listen. So maybe that's another one too. Listen to your elders, folks. They really do, and your mom always knows. My mom, your mom
That is
always
good
knows.
advice. Yeah.
So right there, brother. That's it.
Okay. Well, man, I appreciate you. This was fun. I do
Oh,
want to find another time and chat if you're up for it.
yeah, no, I'd love to. I do. It really does help me, and it really is. And that's the selfish part of me saying that, but it is enjoyable, and knowing that if any just one person it helps get him out of a bad spot, it makes it worthwhile to me to lay it all out there. It was hard at first. It's a little bit embarrassing. It is.
Yeah.
I'm not too worried about it anymore, but if it helps somebody, and that's where I kept doing it, is people would come up and say, your story got me through a tough time. Or man, having a corporate leader at an event come and cry and say, man, what you said has get me through a tough time. Somebody that's, if you want to talk about status, hey, this is a guy millions of dollars worth, powerful company.
Yep.
And they come in crying on your shoulder. To me, that means something, that I'm helping, not just you would think who needs help. Even the people you think are successful still need help as well. Yeah. We all do.
Yeah.
So, bro, anytime, and Jeremy will get you scheduled and Jeremy takes care of you. And I had fun. I've enjoyed it. Obviously we went an extra 30 minutes. So yes. I'm honored, and I'm honored to all your people, all your listeners and viewers that watch this, please. Yeah, please. Thank you so much for me taking some of your time tonight, bro.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thank you. Kris, man, once again, thank you for taking the time. I know that we recorded a little bit later on a Friday afternoon, but I appreciate you for taking the time, being very transparent and sharing your life story. And I do look forward to pinning you down, hopefully, again at the in the near future to talk some more and continue kind of cruising through some of the things that you've learned and experienced, and hopefully sharing some good insight to others. But everyone listening, I hope you all took something away, maybe found something to go chase after, or a new way of thinking. That's, like I've said in the beginning, that's kind of my hope, is to help provide just different insights into people's lives, or maybe find ways to apply it to yours. So with all that being said, I hope you all have a wonderful day, a wonderful week, a happy 4th, and I will catch you next time.